I think I became a costume designer by accident. In the beginning, none of the directors I was collaborating with were interested in costume. If you find the right outfits, you as a costume designer know, and the actor knows.
Anette Guther is a German costume designer who's worked over 39 projects, including Barbara and Phoenix by Christian Petzold and Dark, the Netflix series. Barbara and Phoenix are two of my favorite films, and I'll never forget Barbara's skirts and Nelly's red dress. So I'm really honored to have you as my guest today, Anette, and very excited to discuss your career. Welcome to Profession Costume.
Hello, Celeste. I'm very honored to be part of your very interesting podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to start with asking you how you became a costume designer. What led you to this profession?
I think I became a costume designer by accident. I was studying fashion design, and during my studies, I met through friends dancer, and she was I don't know the word in English. She was the choreographer.
Okay.
And she asked me, because we became friends, and my boyfriend then, he was a composer, he was composing the music, and we started working together. And we started working together, and we did like 4 or 5 pieces together. And I think that kind of ignited my interest in costumes, because I then discovered that I especially like costumes or clothing if it's in relation with other people, with movement, with music, with light. I mean, so I did that. And after that, I was asked if I would do costumes for a small film, and then it all evolved. And I never worked as a costume designer, and I started straight after I finished my diploma working as a costume designer, So I never assisted and never did anything else. And that was, I mean, it was like jumping into cold water if you just start doing a film. But I think it was okay because we were all young, and it was kind of independent filmmaking, and we all made our experiences. And that's how I became a costume designer.
Yes, I was very impressed because when I looked up to EAM as costume designer. Yeah. So it's quite impressive.
Thank you for that. But I mean, I had hard times because I didn't knew that I was allowed to hire a team. And my first film I did mainly on my own. I was sewing on set, and I mean, it was kind of, you could call it stupid. I mean,
you did all the jobs.
Because I didn't do anything. As soon as the sound wasn't rolling, I was sewing on set. So, I mean, that was quite unconventional, but I learned in time that I was allowed to have a team and assistants and people who were helping me. And so, but yeah, it was quite funny. I think it wouldn't work like this nowadays, at least not here in Germany. I don't know. So, yeah, but that's how it went.
And I wanted to focus on your collaboration with Christian Petzold for our interview, because I saw that you've worked together on 8 films, if I'm not mistaken, from 2000 to 2014. So I was wondering first how you, Christian Petzold, and you met.
We met again through friends. The second feature film I did was with Thomas Arslan. And Christian Petzold's wife saw the film, and she knew me through friends, and she recommended me to him. So that's how we met, and we became friends and worked together. So we got along very well, and that's why we always work together again.
And you work together for TV and film?
Yes.
So I was wondering if like it was different in terms of light, image, time of preparation, costume budget, or you don't see it so differently, your TV collaboration and movie collaboration?
I think I think it's just always the time of preparation, but usually we worked. I think there was just one TV film, etwas Besseres als der Tod, and I think I think mainly it's. I mean, his approach or our approach to work, because we usually were the same team. I think that didn't change a lot. I mean, it could have been about money, but we were used to work with smaller budgets as well. I think there hasn't been such a big difference, but in Germany there is a special thing. Every movie, even if it's a big one who's planned to be shown in cinemas, always has to be funded by TV stations. So you always have this discussions with the people of the TV stations, so they usually want to get involved in the whole process. So I think that's why there was not such a big difference for us.
Okay.
And I think we were respected as the whole team. So artistically, I think there was never a difference in the collaboration with Christian, at least. Yeah.
And working together on 8 films, did you feel like you developed a common language? Was it easier and easier to understand what he was expecting from you and for the costumes?
I think there were different phases. In the beginning, none of the directors I was collaborating with were interested in costume design. So they didn't have the education or the knowledge. They just trusted me. And sure, we had the usual conversations, but I felt like I had a great deal of, I could do whatever I wanted. I mean, sure, I've been collaborating with the production designer and camera and light, but I think with Christian, it started with Innere Sicherheit, where when he kind of started to tell me what his concrete ideas were, or what he wanted them or some of the characters to look, and that for me was really strange because I never had that situation. But I mean, sure, it was like that. But your question was how it evolved. But then, I think it started then, and I think that was the film that was the first film who was acknowledged or was kind of successful, and after that, it became more of a process where we discussed more, or where it was more like a ping pong when we worked together. I mean, he still trusted me, but I remember that he had a stronger idea of what he wanted for certain characters or in general for the whole costume design. And it's an interesting question because such a long collaboration, and because we were friends as well, and my partner and his partner as well. So it was sometimes I always thought about it like a family, and you have ups and downs, or you times where you get along well. And I think the film where we all worked together the best was Barbara, and we were nearly the same team when we did Phoenix, but the whole shooting, the whole process was completely different. I mean, it's related to the story maybe because Phoenix is much darker and whatever, but all of us, we were really surprised how different
the experience was.
Could work differently. So how it so I think it's like in every relationship, be it work or private, it changes.
Yes,
so
it evolves.
It evolves, yeah.
Yes. And actually, I wanted to ask you more specifically about the two movies you just evoked. So, Barbara, to start. So, to summarize the plot, it's set in East Germany in 1980, and it tells the story of a doctor who's banished from Berlin to a small country hospital, and she's planning to escape to Denmark from there. So, she's Barbara, and she's played by Nina Hoss, and the film got many nominations and awards. So I was wondering, what was your approach to this project and also the historical aspect of the film?
First of all, it was my first period film,
yes.
And I was very happy and I took it very serious. And I mean, it was a time where I already have lived, and so I had different approaches. I did a lot of research in libraries. I had the luck to have an assistant for the research, and she came from East Germany. And her mother used to be a nurse, so she had a lot of private pictures from the time, private footage. And as well, I always thought, because I grew up in a small town in West Germany, yes. And my mother always had a very peculiar kind of, not peculiar, but special aesthetics, and made a lot of our clothes for me and my sisters, and for her as well. So I always thought that the idea, or how I grew up, or how my understanding of fashion and what we were able to get or make should have been similar to people in the GDR that didn't have access to, be it with because of money, or because they didn't have access to the high fashion or general jeans or something like that. Yes. So yeah, and we watched a lot of documentaries which existed as well, and yeah, that was the whole process of research. And then I was really lucky, because there used to be a lady in Berlin. She's kind of a collector of she used to have a boutique where she was selling Yves Saint Laurent and Gesander, all the important, or to me, very influential designers of that time. And she had this huge archive. And I just thought, let's do fittings with the things, and then we can alter them. And then it turned out, she told us that even some politicians like Sheikh Golodkovsky, who was I think he was the Minister for Foreign Trade, he sent drivers to her shop to buy things for his wife or his. Wow. So it turned out there were possibilities to even get high fashion like Yves Saint Laurent in that time. So I spent a big arc. So that was part of what we found out, and I think it was important to make a difference between the character of Barbara, who wants to flee to the West and who has a lover from the West, and kind of and comes from Berlin, from the big city, and the small town where she's sent to, and the town, the few people we see from the town are the people in the. I don't know if it's really told in the film, but they share the canteen with the people from the
factory.
The factory, thank you. Yeah, and the images we had as Western Germans from the aesthetics from the GDR, where I think they were mainly these bright colors and this not very good quality fabrics, a lot of so we thought they could be dressed like that, and even the colors, because all the pictures I could get were very, very bright colors, and we decided that we didn't want to go for that, so that we kind of created a more modern wardrobe for Barbara, because we thought she is a modern woman, or I thought she is. So yeah, that's how we started, and we had these wonderful original pieces for the fittings, and then we replicated them because I was afraid of using them, and because we needed multiples, and so we could do the small alterations that we wanted to have. So that's, we even had the shoes made because I was so happy to do finally some period costumes. I got really excited, and I got enough time and budget to do it. So
And did Christian Petzold have specific inspirations and requests for this movie and for the costumes?
No, I think here he trusted me again totally, because I mean we always met and we exchanged ideas, but as far as I can remember, he never had he usually just tells a lot of stories or mentions films one should see, but I can't remember that there was a special general idea of how the look should be. I mean, it was very luxurious how we worked, because we had enough time, we had enough money, we were even able to, the set was already built 2 weeks prior or 3 weeks prior. We started shooting, and the costumes were ready, and we went there with the actors, taking pictures in the actual locations, and then afterwards discussed them and did some small alterations or changed some of the costumes we wanted to have for this or that part. And I mean, that's how it should be, but usually isn't, because then, and I think the film shows how we could really take our time to think about how and where and what we chose, because as usual with Christian film, there's not a lot of actors, a lot of costumes, a lot. So, and then that, I think that was really very good. Yeah. So that and I mean the colors. Sure. Then we decided, okay, in this part of the film, it would be better if she would wear the blue sweater, the blue jacket, and so we did that kind of decisions color-wise, and in collaboration with Kade, who did the production design as well. But I think we had a lot of freedom to decide how we wanted it to look. And I have to mention, I worked the first time with a very experienced assistant who became a person with whom I'm still working, and that was very helpful for me as well, because as I told before, I wasn't used to
working with a team. And
and I mean, I had worked with a team before, but I didn't know how comfortable and helpful it is, and to work with a really experienced and very knowledgeable assistant, because then you have the time to do your work. And she helped me with all the research and everything. And so that was because that's something that is, I learned that it is really, really very important with whom you work in your team, because we are nothing without our team. And the bigger the films get, so you can't do it.
And it's very interesting as well what you said about her own past and her family, and how she could share some projects.
No, that was another one.
Oh, that wasn't her. Okay. But that's also very interesting.
For the research, but she had a lot of experience with period films. So but it's true. That was very helpful as well. Yeah.
And you mentioned the colors, and I wanted to ask you about this specific point and Barbara's wardrobe, because the colors are quite neutral. It's a lot of beige and white and blue. And as you mentioned, she comes from Berlin, so she has like quite a different style, but it's very subtle as well, but from the other people in the town. So I was wondering how you composed Barbara's wardrobe. I was also thinking that she's kind of banished from Berlin. Maybe she doesn't take everything with her. She wears the same clothes but mixed differently during the movie. So I was wondering how you composed her wardrobe.
I think it's always, Nina and I, we had worked so many times together. Yes. But I think in general, it is like that. If you do a fitting and and if you find the right outfits, you as a costume designer know, and the actor knows, or the actress, because then it's just like, it's that magic. And you think, and we had our favorite outfits after. I mean, we did a lot of fittings, especially because we did had some things made, but then in the end, I often don't have, I start with a lot and it reduces, but in the end you just have a couple of outfits who really that are really working. And as far as I remember, it was like that with Barbara's outfits. And I'm always thinking, if I am traveling, when we were to travel, I usually just take my favorite things, because then I know I'm feeling comfortable, and I think, she must have had some things that she would have loved to wear every day. And I mean, and because she never expected to stay there longer or being accepted, I always thought that it must be kind of a uniform, an elegant uniform, which would make her look different from the other people there, or where she really feels like armored as well. So I thought of this kind of straight look. So I think it came really very natural. And with Christian and I, we always usually we are drawn to the same outfits. So that's
nice.
That's it, yeah.
And now to discuss the following film you made together with both Nina Hoss and Christian Petzold. It was Phoenix, so 2 years after Barbara. So the movie is about a Holocaust survivor who's determined to find out if her husband has betrayed her trust or not, and find him again. So again, on this movie, could you tell us about your inspirations, and maybe also Christian Petzold's, if they were maybe different for this film?
I was thinking about that because you were so kind to send me some of the questions before, but honestly, I can't remember exactly what, because I just remember we were talking a lot about how to approach the film, and it was never clear if Johnny, her ex-husband or her husband, who might have betrayed her, recognizes her or not. So it got like a ongoing discussion. We had this ongoing discussion with the other departments, with Nina as well, and so it was kind of a I really can't remember exactly how it all happened. I know we had developed a very strong concept, but we turned the idea so many times. So I think we were, at a certain point, we were kind of confused, and I still am. So I can't remember exactly. I think, again, Christian didn't came up with references in terms of aesthetics. He had more like stories. I remember there was something of Alexander Kluge, a story which takes place in a concentration camp, or things like that. So it was more an intellectual conversation about how we want to approach the story. But I always thought, because it's all the whole story for me was, I mean, it was set in a very complicated time in Germany, but I think I decided that it's kind of an artificial world, because you never know what is the reality and what the characters think who they are or the other ones are. So that was kind of a theatrical approach, maybe. And I think we were talking a lot about, it was clear that the whole horror of Holocaust or Shoah isn't something you can really show. So that was a little bit complicated with but I think I had the idea. I mean, it was clear that the character of Nellie had, when she came out from at the beginning, she comes out from the concentration camp, and she's injured, and so it's kind of it's clear that her wardrobe has to change. So she's like a moth becoming a butterfly or something like that. And so we tried to tell that color-wise and but I mean, she's never dressing herself by herself.
Yes.
First she's dressed by Lene, and later she's dressed by Johnny. So
she never picks her own clothes. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I just remember that I had one idea, because in Germany during the 40s, it was very common to have the dresses with the little flowers. I mean, I think it was all over Europe. And I just thought, I don't like small patterns in film. And I just thought maybe we could try to avoid that. And as a center costume piece, there was the dress which she's given from Johnny and the pair of shoes. But after she's becoming again Nellie, I think I'm getting too complicated for people.
No.
So maybe you can get.
Well, for people who've seen the film, it's completely understandable.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
It's such a long time ago, and I really have to think about how we did it, because there were so many layers of doing it. Yeah, I think mainly, we had kind of a color choreography, and I tried to avoid to have too many patterns. And the dress, the red dress we made, and I was lucky, we even made the prints. I did it with a friend of mine. She's an artist, and we chose something, the print we made, it was, you couldn't say if it was a mouth or a wound. And I mean, we just had a lot of room to think about how we wanted to look.
Yes, I was wondering about the pattern. Actually, I resaw the movie today, and I was wondering what it was. So it's made for the film and the dress pattern.
We made it. We made even the prints. So because I thought it would be good to have an extra layer which looks like 40s. I mean, the cut is definitely 40s, but I wanted to have the surreal aspect in the costume as well, like it was in the story, So because you always have this thing that you don't know if it's real or not, or if it's just imagination. And so we did it with the shoes again. I'm a little bit obsessed with making shoes. The producer hated me for that, because I always have the shoes made. And there was a lot of fun as well, because that's the thing with period costumes. Usually they used to be smaller, because we haven't been that well fed in other centuries, and the fabrics and the leather doesn't last, and if they're in rental houses, they're used as many times. So it's always a big challenge if you want to use real costumes. So that's very good if you have the chance to have it made.
And when the movie came out, the press mentioned a lot Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo film, and especially because of that scene where she has to redress as she used to be, and the red dress. So I was wondering if, like, the movie was actually something, Vertigo was actually something you discussed with Christian Petzold, or if it's just the press who then saw a comparison between the two films, and especially this scene.
No, honestly, we never discussed it. I mean, and I haven't had it in mind. So but I'm sure Christian knew about the scene because he has such a big knowledge of film history. But no, we never discussed it. But we always used red again and again. We started with yellow, and then we had it here. But I think we've been discussing, or we've been talking about which color could we use for the dress, because it was clear that it's supposed to have a color, or for us it was clear. And we always ended up with red, because I mean, it's in film, it's always a color that sticks out a lot. And men usually don't like purple, which would be nice. Pink. And I think it suited her character as well, because I mean, she used to be a singer, and so but we haven't thought about the costume of Vertigo. No, we just ignored it.
And there's another piece in the film that I found very striking when I resaw the film. It's the hat with the veil. That she wears throughout the movie, and it's like very interesting as well. I was wondering also how this piece came out, if you remember, and how you decided this.
No, it was very important because we needed it to hide her face, because that was part of the story when she was still having bruises on her face, and actually we had that made as well, the hat and the wheel, and I was lucky to know a person here in Berlin. She's
a hat maker.
She's a hat maker, and she's specialized in 40s and 50s. So she was the person to be trusted. And because I mean, if you have to know a lot of hats. And as I said, it was my third period film, but in the 40s. So it's you always depend on people who have the experience to tell you if you haven't made the experience yourself. And that was and we had the veil was originally from the time, because it had this big mesh holes. So
it's very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I thought so too.
And then to move on another part of your career, you're also the designer of the costume designer of a Netflix acclaimed show, and it's called Dark. So the series is a family saga with a supernatural twist. It's set in a German town where the disappearance of two children exposes the relationship among four families. And the story connects three timelines, 1953, 1986, and 2019. So I was wondering how you got involved in this very ambitious and singular project.
That's interesting. I was just asked by Bo, the director, to come. I got the call if I would be interested in doing a series, and I was just thinking yes, because that was the time where I just thought it would be interesting to do a series, to have this longer time span and more characters and more time to develop the characters. And we met, and I never thought that I would get the job, because everything I had done was kind of in a smaller scale, because I didn't have that experience. But because I was so eager to do a series, and I thought it would be especially interesting for me as a costume designer to do a series which takes place in different decades. I did some moods, and I was lucky that he really liked my moods, and that we got along very well. And then they decided very quickly that because he's always working with his partner, she's writing and he's the director, and they working closely together. So they decided that I would be the right person, and that was a very big chance. So, and then we did it. And actually, it's not just times, it's a lot more. It's three time periods more.
Because I've started the series, but I haven't had the time to finish.
I mean, it's.
But it seems extremely complex. So
extremely complex. Yeah. And I mean, I was really happy to have the chance to work with them, because it was not just different because it was a series. It was very different because they knew exactly how they wanted the whole look, how they work very, very visual.
Yes.
And they had, for nearly every character, they had a specific idea, which wasn't always articulated, but it's just, and that was interesting for me to work with a director and or the showrunners who had such a huge interest in my work. So it was exhausting and it was difficult, but it was rewarding as well, I think, because and I mean, it was with all of the departments. We worked really close together, and I think it shows, because I think the look is really coherent.
Yes, so. And the aesthetics are really strong and impressive. Yes. And I was wondering maybe if you could share some of your main challenges on such a big project.
I think, the main challenge in the beginning was to kind of direct such a big team. And I mean, but the first...
How many were you in your team?
In the beginning, for the first season, I just had my perfect assistant, my favorite assistant, Anette. She shares my name as well, Anette Guther. And I was lucky to win a colleague with whom I had collaborated before a lot as a shopper. So that was kind of having a second costume designer who did the shopping for me. So, and I had 2 very ambitious interns, and I had 3 people on set. That was all, and we didn't have workrooms. We didn't have breakdown department, which was very important for the series, because everything is always wet and dirty, especially. So I think the challenge was to adapt, to learn how to kind of conduct this huge amount of costumes and characters. And I really don't know how we did it, but we did it. We just worked very hard, and everybody was very, very, we gave everything. And then in the second season, but they all, the production and Janti and Bo, they always were interested in supporting us. So it was kind of, we grew together, and they always gave us what we've been asking for. So that was, but I think that was kind of the biggest challenge but it was, but it was wonderful as well, because I mean, I had the chance to have a workroom on my own the first time, and to work with all the wonderful people. And I think the other challenge was because we had so many characters, and we had them in different, sometimes we had them in different generations, like at different times. So as kids, as grown-ups, and as older people. And it was a big challenge to show that through costume. I mean, that was mainly makeup and costume, I think, and sometimes. And I think the third season, the biggest challenge was that the books weren't finished, because there was under so much pressure. And then we sometimes had to invite worlds which we didn't have any knowing of. So it was just, sometimes we really had to improvise, or
try
So yeah, it was just like, yeah, it's another future, because we had a future word, and it wasn't just one word, there was another word, and we didn't know how the other word would look, but then we just got some informations, and we thought, okay, so let's make something up, but it has to be related to the character so that the public would realize who they're gonna see. So that was challenging, but I mean, it was a lot of fun as well, because sometimes we just thought, oh my God, what are we doing?
In which future are we?
Yeah, so in which world are we, or in which, yeah. But I think that, yeah,
it must have been an incredible experience.
Yes, it was.
I'm looking forward to finishing the story.
Good luck. It's very complicated.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you about your teaching, because you also teach costume design to film students in Germany, future directors, producers. So could you share a bit about this experience of teaching costume design?
Yeah, I think it's... I don't really feel like a teacher. It's like I do it once or twice a year. It's not like it's... I don't feel like I'm a very professional there. Or what I want to tell them, what I experience with friends or as a younger costume designer, is that, or sometimes even now, that there's not such a big awareness of what costume design is, what it's capable of, and that it would be not a good advice to not work with it for young directors or for directors in general, because I think it's very often underestimated, and because I think it could tell a lot psychologically, aesthetically. You could, if a character changes their costume, that means usually a day has gone by, or a time span. So that's what I'm trying to tell them. But I think usually, they seem to be interested in it, but I think they have to make their own experiences, because what is totally understandable, they think of other things as aspiring directors or producers. They think of images.
Yeah, so many aspects, I guess.
So it's just grassroots work. I just tell them that it might be interesting sometime in their working life too. And I think in general, I think it's important to, but that's what you do as well with your podcast, is to have a little bit more attention or acknowledgement for our work.
But I guess it's very important that actually you're able to talk to future producers, directors, because as you said, they think about many aspects of the films they're going to make, but maybe not necessarily about costume design. So I think it's great that they have the chance to meet you and think about that part of the movie, actually.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's not just in what is shown, it's even in terms of budget or team size, or how many, or the payment in general for the producers, because but that's another topic.
Yes, but you also bring some concrete aspects that they wouldn't hear about if they didn't have this lesson, so it's important. And I wanted to ask you a few questions about costumes in general. For instance, I was wondering if there's some movie costumes that you especially like and that inspire you.
Sure, there are plenty. Maybe I said in general, what I like with costume, or what I usually try to do, is I try to create something that is not too fashionable and which kind of ages well, because I'm always thinking that if you see a film 10 years after, it should still look classy or good. And that's what I usually like with costume design. That's one aspect, I always had in mind when I was working. And yeah, there are plenty of costumes that I really like, and I think it's important, or I would differentiate them from period and contemporary. And the period film that stuck to my mind the most was Meets Cutoff from Kelly Reichardt. And it's a classical Western, but it's more, it's three pairs that are, it's three settler families that are traveling, and it's set in the desert of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's more told from a female point of view, and the women are dressed in light colored dresses. It's set in the 1840s, I think, and I just thought it's so beautiful, and it felt so real, and it felt so delicate, because usually Western are all about the men and the shootings and the fighting with the indigenous people, and this, I thought it was, I mean, I like her films in general, but I thought the costume, and it's done by, or I wrote it down because that's another Vicky Farrell, and I think it's really, I like that a lot. And there's another small film from a Brazilian director. He's called Karim Ainous, and he lives in Berlin. I have the luck to know him, but he did, I think 2 or 3 years ago, he did a small film. It's called The Life of Eurídice Gusmão, and it's set in the 40s in Brazil. And I like the effortlessness of the costumes, of the period costumes, because, I mean, it's hot there, and it's kind of a very emotional drama, but you never had the feeling that it was a costume film, because it was so, and they wore it kind of a sloppy way, and it's not the usual look you always get from that time. And that was the same with Meets Cutoff. So that I think I like it if it has a real feeling, or if it's a period thing, and you see that it's kind of a modern approach to it, but not like a total design approach to it. And for contemporary films, I really like 2 films of Jacques Audiard.
Yes.
It's called De battre de mon cœur, c'est arrête.
Oui.
I don't know how my pronunciation is.
Yeah, it's quite good. De battre mon cœur, c'est arrêté.
And it's hard to say if the costume design is really good, because I think it's always related to a good film.
Yes.
But so it's very rarely you can recognize a good costume design as the film is really bad. But that's just. But I really like the costumes by Virginie Montel. She did for both of films, and I think she did really iconic men's costume, which were very well chosen, and which you could look at even 10 or 15 or 20 or whenever years after. And I think it's hard to find really interesting costumes for like a film like En Prophète, which is set mainly in a prison.
Yes.
So I have more if there's still time. I have
series. Of course.
Because I think that's another thing. And I really liked Euphoria, but I would say for the main reasons, I like Too Old to Die Young by Nicholas Refn Winding, because I think their approach is very modern, kind of contemporary, but they created kind of an iconic look for both of the films. I mean, I could just judge Euphoria because I have a teenage daughter, and now she's still a teenager. And I think it's and she said that it was very, very realistic, even when the costumes are totally exaggerated. And I think that's an aspect I really thought was interesting, the makeup and everything. And it's the same with Too Old to Die Young, that it looks exaggerated, but that it kind of pinpoints the feeling or the look, and I think that's so that are a couple of costume designs I really admired or liked. So
Great. Thank you for sharing them. I'll share pictures of it on Instagram so that people who listen to the episode can see it. And now I wanted to ask you if there's some of the costumes you've designed yourself that you especially like today, that you like watching again, or...
Yeah, I think I like the whole wardrobe of Barbara, but I mean, it's like my favorite period, the late 70s, early 80s. And my assistant, whom I have been talking a lot, she always saying, whatever you do, whatever period you do, you always manage to get some of the late 70s look into it. So maybe that's why I like that. And I like one character of Dark, she's called Claudia Tiedemann. She's the director of the power plant, and I like the whole wardrobe starting from the 50s when she was a child through the 80s, elaborated kind of fashionable looks, and then she turns into kind of a terrorist in the future as an older lady, and I like her looks. So yeah.
And what do you like most about your job as a costume designer?
Yeah, I think I really like the work in the working rooms, and I like, I can't say that I like if it's going well, if the communication is going well, be it with the director, be it with the actors, or especially in the workrooms. I really, really love that part.
My last question would be, is there a specific type of project you'd like to work on in the future, and if so, why?
I always wanted to do a musical, but I think in general, I would be interested in just working on project which would give me the opportunity to create worlds that haven't been seen so often, because I think I'm a little bit tired of stereotypes. And I think in general, it's interesting with everything that happens that we are able to have more points of view of telling stories, different people telling stories. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And I was always lucky to work with younger people or with new directors. And I think, but a musical would be something I would love to work on.
So I wish you will find an interesting musical scene then.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So I've asked you all my questions. Is there anything you'd like to add, or?
Yeah, maybe I forgot to tell one story which really touched me after the premiere of Barbara. A woman approached me and she was really very moved, and she told me that she never saw a film. She was from the East, and she's from Eastern Germany, and she said that was the first film where she thought the people were dressed how they were really dressed, and that was something I was very honored, or I was very touched by it, because we just did what we thought would be, and we took our artistical freedom. But I think that was an interesting moment, because if you just try to understand costumes by psychology, by history, by how you feel something should look, maybe that's my way, how I usually approach it. Yeah. So
that's a beautiful compliment. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Anette.
Yeah, I could just say again, I'm very honored, and I'm very happy that you take so much time to produce the podcast, which is totally concentrated on our trade or on our profession. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Anette. It means a lot. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Anette Guther, whom I'd like to thank for this passionate and honest talk about costume design. If you like Profession Costumière, don't forget to give it 5 stars on your podcast app and to subscribe for more talks. You can also join the podcast on Instagram at Profession Costumière to see the costumes we've been mentioning and Annette's beautiful mood boards and sketches. Bye!